COC is focused on creating a better environment for inmates, but doesn't seem to be focusing on creating a better environment for staff. Are there steps being taken to show support or repair morale for staff just trying to manage in the facilities?
Well, I'll have somebody else jump in, and I get the nature of this question, and I'm really not defensive about it. I mean, I'm really not. I'm just going to say I disagree with a little bit of your context of your question and say that we don't care. There's probably one thing we care about more every day. There's probably one thing in our priority of the executive team that is the number one priority. I mean, I care about the people in our custody and what happens and the responsibility, the legal and moral responsibility we all have with the people who are in our care, in our custody. But the safety of all of you and the well-being of all of you who work here has always been priority one for me, and I know it has been priority one for everybody on the executive team. So sometimes it may not seem that way. Sometimes you may not hear it that way. There's things that go on behind the scenes that I can't talk to you about, or I can't share with you. But I'll just give you one, and then I'll pass it off to Rick or Travis or anybody else who wants to jump in. Or I see Andre, you're on too. Either one of you, any one of you. Part of why I want, in fact, I was just visiting with the Hungarian prison group. There's a delegation from the Hungarian prison group, and the number two of their system, along with some other of his staff, are here visiting us. And I just spent an hour and a half, couple hours with them, visiting through translators about the importance of, because they're having staffing problems in Hungary, right? And I said, all the efforts we're going around on normalization of prisons is to make life not only get better for the people who are in our custody, but to make life better for the people who work for us. And if you forgot about the first one, try to keep the eye on the second one. So as Hungary, to their credit, is looking around the different states around how to transform their prison system, I said, if we don't make this a better job for people, then they may not want to work here. And what we could get by with in the past, I don't think we can get by with in the future. So the entire round point of making prisons more humane is more humane for staff as well. And if we want to attract more people to work here, we have to attract a broader group of people who want to work here. And that's why we have to convince people this is not your grandfather's prison system, right? This is a different way forward. So all I can tell you is that there's a whole bunch of efforts around that, including the Grace Alliance and encouraging wardens to do everything they can to meet with staff whenever possible, and all of us. And the reason why, I mean, the pandemic's caused havoc, but try to get in prisons as often as possible. So I can just tell you that's been the number one priority for me since I took the job, and I know it is for the rest of the team as well. And a lot of these normalization efforts around prison is to make things better for all the staff working there. Travis, do you or Andre or anybody else want to jump in? Any other comments?
No, I know Matt's on, and he has better audio, but I'll touch on it for a bit, and then maybe Matt wants to jump in. But I think Mr. Williams nailed it on the head. I've been in the system 28 years, and when I went through the academy, it was very, very clear there were the green guys and the blue guys, and it was a culture of us versus them. And I reflect on my time at CSP in 1993 through 1998 when it was ADSEG, and I'd come there from a medium security facility where you could actually communicate with inmates, and CSP was just a different world. I don't remember a shift where I didn't have my life threatened or be cussed at, or a month that went by when somebody didn't try to assault me. And we would have staff literally on their first day quit and walk out the door because it was that kind of an environment. And that's what we're trying to change. Nobody should have to go into an environment where they're on pins and needles, they're constantly watching their back, they're getting cussed at, they're getting assaulted, they're getting threatened, they're getting their families threatened, I was young and dumb, so it didn't bother me at the time, but I reflect back on that, and nobody should have to work in an environment like that. And you know, Matt and I and Andre and Steve have really talked about this normalization effort, and absolutely we want better outcomes for the inmates and for them to go out and be successful and not come back to us, not have that revolving door. But my gosh, we want something more for staff, so they don't have to go in that environment and be in that daily grind, because it burns you out. And I've seen it turn great people bitter, and they leave the department. So more than anything, that's what we're trying to do, is create a culture to where it's respectful between the staff and the inmates, and it's not the us versus them. And there's always going to be that group that we're not going to get to. I'm sorry, there's going to be that 10% that we're just going to have to manage, and there'll be an environment that we can appropriately manage them. But the ones that want to come along with us, why wouldn't we do it? And you know, I was at Ark Valley talking to staff about this a while back, and one of the guys had worked in an incentive unit and was really questioning normalization. And I said, wouldn't it be nice if all of our prisons were like an incentive unit, and you could manage those inmates like that across the whole department? And it was like the light bulb went on. Just keep that in mind. If we could get this department to where it's like an incentive unit in every environment that we're in, and that the inmates manage themselves, they police themselves, we have respectful relationships between staff and inmates, it will be a better place for all. And I guarantee you we're going to have better outcomes at the end of it. So Matt, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Seems pretty hard to follow, Travis. You hit pretty much everything.
I agree with that. Thank you, Mr. Tranny.
Yeah, you're just being nice, Matt. Just being nice.
What specific steps are you taking to retain staff?
Well, we mentioned a couple. One, let's make the place a better place to work, so people aren't in fear when they walk in the door, and that's a big one. And if we want different people to work for us, then it has to be a safe place to work. So we covered that one well pretty heavily. The other one is pay, and I think that matters. And I'm going to do all I can in the chair that I'm in to advance pay of staff. Again, there's a lot of things I can't talk about around that because it's a process, and I have one seat at the table. But I'm not shy on this issue. I'll just tell you that. So the other thing, and maybe we haven't talked about, is that I continue to I want to find opportunities for where staff can lead on things, right? I want your job to mean more, not just on being at normal, so you're not afraid on every shift you come in. But I hear the stories, and I talk to staff all the time who work 2 or 3 doubles a week. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. I talk to the spouses of staff members who have been hurt in the system, right? Or staff members, I mean, as we were going through COVID, we lost several staff to that. And so, my dream is that, and this is my hope, but I'm not giving it up, is that when I ask staff, why do you work here? You say, well, because I think I'm making a difference, right? I mean, that's what I want. I want staff to be in positions where they feel they are making a difference. And I realize that for a lot of our positions, people don't feel that way. I don't blame them for feeling that way. Maybe I don't think I'd feel that way. But I think you have to be honest about where you stand on things before you can make a change. I've always been that way. I hope you see that I think you can take steps to keep people here, because money does matter, by the way, but working conditions matter a lot. And if you look at sort of the research on this, actually money is like 3 or 4. Kind of the first one is you have a good boss, right? And do you have a boss you want to work for? And if that's bad, because I know I've done that. I'm out. I pulled the plug on a couple of bosses, right? I was going to someplace else. I had another opportunity. But one of the big motivators is whether or not we are good leaders to the people we lead. Are we good managers to our staff? So I can tell you if I find bad ones, and we find bad ones, I do my best to move them on because they're hurting us. Not they're just hurting, they're hurting the entire department. And so some people, unfortunately, who work for us who have been moved up into positions, maybe shouldn't be bosses. I'll be the first to tell you I've seen that. And I'm strongly work with appointing authorities and my IG's office to make sure if we have bad bosses, we move bad bosses on. Because that's the difference of why people stay. So there's no magic formula, but there's multiple issues around pay, working conditions, leadership, making sure we have the right bosses, and then also trying to stem this restriction around staff working conditions and overtime. And so I don't need anybody else to tell me that we have a serious overtime problem, staff problem. I get it, you guys. Let me just tell you that I'm running as fast as I can, along with everybody else here, to figure out what the solutions are. Again, I can only share parts of that with you, but it's the most important thing we're doing on any given day. Is what are we going to do about staffing, and how do we make it a better place for staff to work here?
I have a staff member that has other retention ideas to decrease burnout, such as earning additional months of credit toward retirement, additional vacation time, and other paid leave. So if staff have these types of ideas, where would you suggest they send those to?
Well, since we're going to start this negotiating process with WINS, you can send them up through our side, and there's negotiators on our side, right, who negotiate for the state or for the administration, us, right? And there's also representatives. I know we came out with representatives too that WINS has. So I don't want to speak for WINS at this meeting at all, but I would say I'm guessing they would welcome those things coming to their members who are employee representatives, or I forget what the title they use for them. So there's a real opportunity with this WINS negotiation. I think a few months ago, I got sort of a nasty gram about saying, well, WINS, the WINS process is somehow a kerfuffle. I meant the farthest thing from that. What I meant was that through this process now, there's opportunity to really have good discussions around some of these things, around what other incentives might exist, right? That may be related to pay, but maybe not related to pay. But that's the opportunity. So I want to be clear. I'm looking forward to the opportunity around these negotiations with WINS, because, as I said before, we have strong mutual interest on a number of these fronts. So send it through our side, or send it through the WINS representatives as well.
Due to the current staffing shortages, will we be permitted to carry over vacation hours into the next fiscal year?
That's a good question. Rick?
So that question has been presented to the Department of Personnel Administration, because that leave balances and accruals are in rule. And so the ability to carry over leave balances, that had to be granted through an executive order. Unfortunately, there is no executive order this year, and so there will not be the ability to carry leave over. So whatever leave balances that you have, you need to ensure, we need to try to make sure that you're able to take the leave and get down to the threshold of the leave balance. There is a provision in the rules that allows for carryover, and that's if the annual leave has been requested and has been denied. And so that is the only offset that allows for leave to be carried over.
If I have an approved,
So Rick, I guess the inside baseball, and it's no skin off our nose, right? So it sounds like one of the inside baseball things, if you really to put in leave request, if you really are in a facility that really has the inability to grant leave because they're up against it this, this winter, this spring. I mean, so am I stating that right, Rick?
Yeah, again, the leave has to be requested, and it has to be on the books, and it has to be denied.
Okay.
Thank you. If I have an approved vaccination exemption, do I need to send in anything to get the booster bonus?
No. No, we'll
You're good.
manage and track it just as we did the last time.
All right, that was an easy one.